Imagine waking up tomorrow and realizing, almost, like a subtle miracle that while everything around you remains exactly the same, something deep inside you has shifted. The same deadlines still loom, the traffic still crawls, the same unpredictable people still cross your path. But strangely beautifully, you feel different. That tension that once knotted in your chest now rolls off like distant thunder, no longer gripping your peace. The distractions that used to pull your attention in every direction suddenly seem powerless. With every breath you take, there's a quiet but steady declaration rising within. Asterisk, I am grounded. I am unmoved. Asterisk, this transformation doesn't fall from the sky. It isn't the result of blind luck, nor is it a gift randomly handed to you by fate. No, this kind of inner shift is earned. It's built through deliberate conscious work on the mind. It's the result of specific mental rewiring, subtle, yet powerful changes in how you perceive, interpret, and respond to the world. These aren't just modern self-help tricks. They're ancient, timeless insights passed down through generations, 12 Stoic mindset shifts that turn chaos into calm and confusion into clarity. The Stoics called it living in accordance with nature, but in practical terms, it's about mastering what happens in the invisible space between stimulus and response. Because here's the truth. When your mind learns to be still, the world loses its power to shake you. In the journey ahead, we'll explore each of these 12 mindset shifts one by one. With every shift, you'll find yourself more anchored, more focused, and more capable of facing life, not with fear, but with fierce purpose. So ask yourself, what would your life look like if calm became your default setting? Let's find out. Continuing from the previous part, when you begin to gain control over your inner world, you realize that true power doesn't come from changing the outside, it comes from shifting how you respond to it. That brings us to one of the most profound mindset shifts of all. 2. Emotion is a messenger, not a master. Most people go through life like leaves tossed around in a storm, pushed and pulled by every gust of emotion. Anger flares and they explode. Sadness sets in and they collapse. Fear arises and they retreat. Like puppets, they obey every emotional tug as if it were a command written in stone. But here's the truth. Emotions aren't meant to be your masters. They're meant to be your messengers. Stoic doesn't kneel before emotion. He listens to it, learns from it. He treats every feeling not as a signal to act immediately, but as a piece of information to understand. Imagine receiving a letter marked urgent. You wouldn't tear it up or blindly follow its instructions. You'd read it. You'd process it. You'd decide what to do. That's exactly how emotions should be handled. Anger might be telling you that a boundary was crossed. Sadness might be revealing the depth of a meaningful loss. Jealousy may be pointing to an unfulfilled desire, or a place where you haven't yet healed. Emotions aren't your enemies, they're indicators. But indicators only help when you read them, not when you let them drive the car. The modern world often swings between two extremes, either worshiping emotion or suppressing it entirely. The Stoic chooses the middle path: observation without attachment, feeling without drowning. He remains grounded in storms others get lost in. Seneca said, "The greatest remedy for anger is delay, not suppression, not denial, but pause." That pause is your superpower. That tiny breath between stimulus and response, that's where wisdom lives. It's where you take back your agency. You may not choose what emotion rises in you, but you always choose what happens next. And here's the beauty of emotional mastery. It doesn't make you cold. It makes you clear. It doesn't make you unfeeling. It makes you unchained. Because true strength isn't about hiding tears or burying rage. It's about choosing not to be ruled by them. So the next time a wave of emotion comes, pause. Don't run. Don't react. Instead ask, what is this feeling trying to tell me? Then listen. And respond. Not like a slave, but like a sovereign. Previously, we explored how mastering your emotions unlocks a new kind of power, the ability to respond instead of react. Now, let's go one layer deeper. Because before growth can flourish, it must first pass through something we're all conditioned to avoid: discomfort. 3. Discomfort is where transformation begins. Most people spend their lives running from anything that feels hard or uncomfortable. We dodge the difficult conversation, we sleep through the early alarm, we drown out the silence after a breakup, we scroll, distract, and numb ourselves, believing that if it feels unpleasant, it must be bad. But what if discomfort wasn't your enemy? What if it was your compass? The Stoics saw discomfort not as something to escape, but as something to examine. To them, discomfort was a signal, up to danger, but of potential. It's the quiet knock at the door of your comfort zone, asking, "Are you ready to grow?" No real strength is built in ease. No lasting clarity arrives in distraction. Whether it's building physical endurance, emotional resilience, or spiritual depth, all meaningful growth has discomfort at its roots. Think about it. The weightlifter grows not because the weights are easy, but because they aren't. The philosopher uncovers truth not by avoiding pain, but by walking straight through it. We've been conditioned to pursue instant results. Instant food, instant gratification, instant success. But real change doesn't come in an instant. It comes slowly, often uncomfortably. And that discomfort is proof that something powerful is taking shape. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "Is your cucumber bitter? Then throw it away. Are there brambles in your path? Then go around them. That is enough." In other words, don't make discomfort heavier than it is. Don't turn a challenge into a catastrophe. Face it. Move through it. But here's the thing. The hardest discomfort isn't always external. Sometimes it's the inner confrontation, the truths you've avoided, the pain you've buried, the blind spots you've ignored. And facing that, it can feel like fire. But fire doesn't only destroy, it also refines. You don't become unshakable by avoiding what makes you squirm. You grow strong by choosing to step into your weakness and stand there until it teaches you what strength really means. So if you're in the middle of something hard right now, confused, stretched thin, or feeling lost, maybe you're not broken. Maybe you're becoming. Maybe you're in the fire not to burn, but to be forged. Discomfort is not the enemy. It's the invitation. And those who answer it, with eyes open and hearts steady, are the ones who rise transformed. In our last part, we discovered how discomfort, far from being an enemy, is often the very environment where real growth is born. Now, we turn to the quiet discipline that sustains that growth and internal force that doesn't shout for attention, but builds a foundation of true self-respect. For discipline is the art of self-respect. When most people hear the word discipline, they picture something cold, rigid, and joyless. They imagine strict routines, deprivation, maybe even punishment. But the Stoic view of discipline is radically different. It's not about suffering, it's about alignment. It's a way of treating your future self with dignity and care. Discipline says, "I matter enough to follow through." It's a daily act of self-respect, not self-denial. Without discipline, we drift. We wake up to distractions, we chase fleeting pleasures, we break promises to ourselves. And over time, something within us begins to fracture. It's not just our routines, but our trust in ourselves. Have you ever told yourself, "I'll wake up early tomorrow," but hit snooze repeatedly? Promised you'd cut off a toxic habit, but it lingered. Said you'd change only to slip back into comfort again? Every time you do, your mind takes notes. And slowly, it starts to believe you less. Discipline, however, is the quiet voice that says not this time. It's the choice to go to the gym when it's raining. 2, write when you're uninspired. It's to meditate when the noise feels louder than ever. And not because anyone's watching, but because you said you would. This is how identity is reshaped, not by grand declarations, but by small, repeated acts of loyalty to your higher self. As Seneca once wrote, "No man is more unhappy than he who never faces adversity, for he is not permitted to prove himself." Discipline is that chosen adversity. It's the proving ground of self-worth. And remember, discipline doesn't demand perfection. You will stumble, you will fall. The Stoic doesn't aim to never falter, simply gets up faster. He returns to the path more quickly. Because discipline isn't rigidity, it's rhythm. A sacred return to intention. So the next time you're tempted to choose comfort over your commitments, pause and ask yourself, am I choosing ease or am I choosing respect? It's because every choice writes your character, and discipline, the quiet, daily, often invisible kind, is how you become someone you can believe in. Previously, we looked at how discipline isn't a cage, it's the foundation of freedom and self-trust. Now we move into a mindset shift that's even more personal. The truth that who you are isn't discovered, it's built. And it's built through repetition. 5. Your identity is shaped by what you repeat. Many people believe identity is something you uncover, like buried treasure waiting to be found after enough self-reflection. But the Stoics saw it differently. Identity isn't hidden. It's forged, crafted through the small, consistent choices you make every day. You don't become calm, focused, or resilient by accident. You become those things by practicing them again and again till they start becoming a part of your default mode. One journal entry, one disciplined action, one mindful response. Each one is a vote cast for the person you're becoming. Think about it. Do you become a writer by thinking about writing, or by sitting down again and again to face the blank page? Do you become strong by simply wanting strength, or by showing up day after day to move through resistance? The same applies to everything else. If you say yes to distractions regularly, you're not just wasting time, you're training yourself to avoid commitment. If you constantly break small promises to yourself, your subconscious begins to register a damaging truth. I can't rely on myself. Marcus Aurelius captured this insight when he wrote, "You become what you give your attention to." Attention is the sculptor of your identity. And every habit, even the tiniest one, is shaping who you are. But here's the beautiful part. Repetition is power. A single drop of water does nothing, but many drops, over time, carve valleys through stone. That's what your daily actions do. They etch character, they write integrity, they shape self-respect. This is why Stoics don't obsess over results. They focus on rhythm, on showing up, on being deliberate. It's not flashy, but faithful to the process. So if you've been feeling stuck or uncertain about who you are, stop looking for clarity in your thoughts and start finding it in your actions. What are you doing daily? That's the truest reflection of who you're becoming. Need to wait for some perfect version of yourself to appear. You shape that version, one repeatable action at a time. And over time, those actions become not just what you do, but who you are. In the last part, we realize that identity isn't a mystery to uncover. It's something shaped by the habits we repeat. Now we turn to a mindset that breaks illusions and brings lasting peace, accepting what you can control and letting go of what you cannot. 6. Let go of the illusion of control, one of the most difficult truths to accept yet. One of the most liberating is that most things in life are simply beyond our control. The weather, the economy, the opinions of others, even the actions of those we love, these are all outside our grasp. And yet so much of our stress comes from trying to manage, manipulate, or predict them. The Stoics teach that real power lies not in controlling everything, but in recognizing what is yours to hold and what never was. We often grip life tightly, thinking that if we just plan more, worry harder, or push stronger, we'll bend the world to our will. But has that ever truly worked? More often than not, it leaves us exhausted, frustrated, feeling like failures, when the truth is, we were chasing something we never truly had control over. Epictetus summed it up best. Some things are up to us, and some are not. That one line can change your entire life if you let it. Because once you separate what belongs to you, your actions, your effort, your values from what doesn't, others' opinions, results, or timing, you begin to reclaim all the energy you used to waste. You stop trying to micromanage outcomes. You stop spiraling over what people think. You stop feeling defeated by what doesn't go your way. And instead you refocus on the only place your influence actually matters, your inner world. Letting go doesn't mean giving up. It means choosing to invest fully in the few things you can control. Your character, your choices, your presence. Ironically, that's when people start to notice your strength. You become calm in the storm, not because the storm goes away, but because you no longer hand your peace to every passing gust. So the next time you're overwhelmed by uncertainty, pause and ask yourself, is this within my control? If the answer is no, breathe, let it go. If the answer is yes, act. Move with purpose. Because freedom isn't about having power over the world. It's about having power over your own response to it. Previously, we explored the power of letting go, how peace begins when we stop trying to control what was never ours to begin with. Now, we dive into something even more subtle, but just as powerful, the quiet. Daily decisions that shape how others and we ourselves treat our worth. 7. What you tolerate, you invite every time you stay silent when someone crosses a line. Every time you shrug off a disrespectful remark just to keep the peace. Every time you betray your own standards in the name of comforter, not just enduring something unpleasant, you're sending a message, and that message is loud, even if unspoken. We often think of tolerance as passive, as something neutral, but it's not. Tolerance is active. It trains people. It teaches them what we'll accept. And more dangerously, it teaches us what we'll accept from ourselves. The Stoics never taught us to be doormats. Stoicism is not about swallowing pain in silence or suffering nobly. It's about clarity. It's about knowing what aligns with your values and protecting that alignment without apology. Seneca once said, "You act like mortals in all that you fear and like immortals in all that you desire." We hesitate to set boundaries because we fear losing love, approval, or connection. But in doing so, we trade authenticity for illusion, and every time we do, we chip away at our inner integrity. This isn't just about relationships. It's about your daily self-talk. Do you tolerate procrastination? Do you justify the voice that says, "It's not that bad," or "I'll fix it later"? These small allowances become habits, and habits quietly shape identity. The Stoic doesn't wait for chaos to explode before setting a boundary. He adjusts early, calmly, firmly, not with rage, but with resolve. He doesn't yell. He simply becomes the standard. And people either rise to meet that standard or they fall away. Ask yourself, what have you been tolerating that's slowly draining? Your energy? Your focus? Your joy? Is it a person? A pattern? Part of yourself you've been too gentle with? Remember, tolerance is cumulative. What you allow once, you teach others and your subconscious to expect again. So reclaim your self-worth by honoring your boundaries. Speak the truth, even if your voice shakes. Say no without guilt. Walk away without explanation. You're not being difficult. You're remembering who you are and finally refusing to forget. In the last segment, we learned that setting boundaries is not an act of rebellion. It's an act of remembering your worth. Now, we explore another powerful form of restraint, not in how we protect our space, but in how we use our words. Speak less, mean more. We live in a world where volume often substitutes for value. Everyone has something to say loudly, constantly, endlessly. But amidst all the noise, something powerful happens when someone speaks with weight, not with volume. The Stoic isn't obsessed with being heard. He's committed to being understood, doesn't rush to fill silence. He uses silence to create space for clarity. Speaking less doesn't mean becoming passive or withholding truth. It means choosing your words with intention. Like a sculptor chisels with care, the Stoic speaks not to impress but to express what's essential. Each word becomes a tool, not a weapon. Think back, how many times have you said something impulsively only to regret it moments later? The angry reply, the defensive explanation, the unnecessary comment that created more confusion than clarity. In those moments, more words didn't solve the problem, they multiplied it. Seneca once wrote, "The more we value things outside our control, the less control we have." This applies to speech too. When we feel the need to explain ourselves constantly, to defend every move, to fill every silence we're not expressing wisdom, we're often just soothing our insecurity. But when you pause before you speak, something shifts. You begin to Notice what doesn't need to be said. You filter not from fear, but from self-respect. You speak less, but your presence speaks more. People begin to trust your words, not because you say a lot, but because you've thought through every word. You choose. That kind of presence is magnetic. It signals restraint, clarity, and depth. So before you speak, ask yourself, does this add peace or tension? Does it bring truth or just noise? Will I still stand by these words tomorrow? You don't have to. Raise your voice to raise your impact. Speak less, mean more. Let your calm become your statement hand. Let your silence carry the weight your words no longer need to. Last time we explored the value of restraint, how speaking less can actually deepen your presence and make your words matter more. Now we turn inward again to a subtle poison that quietly undermines peace and self-worth. Comparison. 9. Comparison poisons the mind. It often begins silently. You're scrolling through social media. Someone bought a house. Someone started a successful business. Someone posts a photo glowing with happiness and success. And suddenly, without realizing it, your chest tightens. You were content 5 minutes ago, but now you feel behind. This is the hidden danger of comparison. It sneaks in when you're not looking, convincing you that your life once full of meaning somehow isn't enough anymore. But here's what the Stoics knew. Comparison is not only unfair, it's deeply irrational. Why? Because you're comparing the full, complex, your unfiltered reality of your life with the polished, curated highlight reel of someone else's. It's not a fair fight. It's not even a real one. You know your struggles, your doubts, your late nights, but you don't see theirs. You're holding yourself to an illusion, not a truth. And illusions breed resentment, disconnection, and anxiety. When you start shaping your goals to match someone else's timeline, you lose your compass. You drift. You stop asking what's right for me. Start chasing validation that doesn't nourish your soul. Seneca warned, "No man is more unhappy than he who never faces adversity, for he is not permitted to prove himself." We forget that our challenges are not curses, they're opportunities. The slow path, the difficult path, may be the very reason your character is deep and your presence powerful. And the worst part? Comparison robs you of gratitude. It blinds you to how far you've come. You forget that what once seemed impossible is now your daily life. You overlook the victories, the healing, the resilience you've earned through pain. So next time you feel the sting of comparison, pause. Return to your lane. Breathe. Reflect. Ask, am I living for approval or for alignment? No one can walk your journey better than you. Your scars, your setbacks, your story, it's unrepeatable. That's your power. The Stoic doesn't chase someone else's success. He cultivates his own, quietly and consistently. Remember, comparison is noise, and your peace is found in turning the volume down. In the last part, we peeled away the layers of comparison, the illusion that someone else's life is the standard for your own. Now we turn to something far more quiet, yet infinitely more powerful: stillness. 10. Stillness is strength in a world addicted to motion, noise, and constant reaction. Stillness almost feels unnatural. We're told that if we're not moving, we're falling behind. If we're not speaking, we're losing influence. If we're not online, we're invisible. But the Stoic rejects that frantic rhythm. To be still doesn't mean to be stagnant. It means to be steady. It's not laziness. It's mastery. Stillness is the ability to pause, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, and not be pulled by every impulse or distraction. It's the strength to observe chaos without becoming part of it. Think of a storm. The trees whip and bend. Debris flies but in the center. In the eye of the storm, there's quiet. That's what Stoic stillness looks like. It's a cultivated calm, a place inside where the world can't touch you unless you invite it in. This kind of stillness is rare because it's hard. It requires training, requires reflection. It requires courage to sit in silence without checking your phone, without numbing discomfort, without seeking the next hit of stimulation. Marcus Aurelius ruled an empire, yet wrote nightly in his journal, retreating into stillness. Epictetus, though born a slave, found freedom in choosing how to respond. Seneca wrote his most profound reflections not in moments of applause, but in solitude. Why? Because stillness isn't just rest, it's revelation. In silence, truth finally has space to rise. That decision you've been rushing?
Yes.
The relationship that's been draining you? The path you've been walking unconsciously?
Ow.
All of it becomes clearer when you're still. And that's where your power returns, not through force, but through understanding. When you master stillness, you stop reacting to life like a puppet pulled by strings. You begin choosing, responding, discerning. You listen more than you speak. You breathe before you act. You stop being dragged by urgency and start living by intention. Stillness doesn't make you soft. It makes you sharp. It makes you unshakable. So make time for silence. Make space for slowness. Turn down the volume of the world until you can hear yourself again. Because in the quiet, your clearest voice is waiting. And that voice, that's where strength begins. Previously, we explored the quiet strength of stillness, the rare ability to remain unmoved in a world addicted to motion. Now, we step into one of the most misunderstood yet liberating shifts in the Stoic mindset: forgiveness. Leaven, forgiveness. Is liberation. When we think of forgiveness, it's often clouded with misconceptions. We believe it means forgetting the offense, excusing the behavior, or pretending we weren't hurt. Worse, we sometimes think that to forgive is to let the other person win. But the Stoics saw forgiveness not as a favor to someone else, but as a gift to yourself. When you carry resentment, you don't just hold a memory, you carry a weight. That bitterness doesn't stay in one corner of your life. It bleeds into everything: how you trust, how you speak, how you wake up. It seeps into joy, into relationships, into your self-worth. And most tragically, it tethers you to the very person or moment that hurt you. The Stoics ask, if someone wronged you once, why let them wrong you every day through memory? Epictetus taught that it is not the event that disturbs us, but our opinion about it. When we replay old wounds in our minds, we're not just remembering, we're reliving. We're opening a wound that the world has already moved on from. Forgiveness. It's not about letting someone back in. It's not about reconciliation. It's about release. You're not saying what happened was okay. You're saying, I refuse to be chained to this pain any longer. And more powerfully, forgiveness is a mirror. It allows us to ask hard questions, not from shame, but from growth. Did I ignore red flags? Did I stay too long in something that was hurting me? Did I confuse hope with wisdom? These aren't accusations, they're reflections. They allow us to rise stronger, wiser, more aware. Seneca once said, he who suffers before it is necessary suffers more than is necessary. Resentment is that unnecessary suffering. The past hurt you once. Don't let it hurt you forever. Forgiveness is not weakness. Strength in its most evolved form. It's you reclaiming your peace, your energy, your future. It's not forgetting. It's remembering, then choosing to be free anyway. So if you're still holding pain, let this be your invitation to put it down. Not for them, for you. Because your soul was made to rise, not to carry. In the last part, we discovered that forgiveness isn't weakness. It's liberation. It's the bold decision to stop carrying pain that no longer belongs to your present. Now we conclude this journey with a final shift that ties everything together: confidence built not from ego, but from inner alignment. 12. Confidence comes from congruence. True confidence doesn't announce itself. It doesn't boast or seek applause. It doesn't need the spotlight. Instead, it whispers in quiet moments when you're alone. I trust myself. Most people chase confidence like it's something to be won. To achievements, titles, appearance, or praise. But those things fade. And when they do, so does the fragile identity built on them. The Stoics believe that confidence isn't built through external validation, it's born from congruence. The alignment between what you say, what you believe, and how you live. When your thoughts, words, and actions point in the same direction, something powerful happens. You stop needing to prove anything. You simply become. This kind of congruence doesn't come from grand gestures. It's forged in the small daily choices. Waking up when you said you would. Following through when no one is watching. Saying no when something violates your values, even if it costs you approval. Confidence blooms when you stop negotiating with your excuses and start honoring your commitments. Think of someone you admire not for how loud they are, but for how consistent they are. There's a quiet gravity about them, a calm certainty. You trust them not just because of what they say, but because of how aligned they are with what they do. Marcus Aurelius ruled an empire, but wrote like a humble student. Epictetus had no title, but his character made him a philosopher of kings. Their confidence came not from status, but from self-respect. And that self-respect came from congruence. You don't need to be perfect, you just need to be honest. Let your actions reflect your values. Let your promises shape your identity. And over time, confidence will no longer be something you chase, it will be something you embody. So when doubt whispers, "You're not enough," respond with action. Quiet, consistent, aligned action.
Confidence.
Because confidence isn't a volume, it's a vibration. It's the sound your life makes when it's in tune with your truth. Previously, we explored how true confidence isn't loud. It's quietly built through alignment between belief and behavior. Now we come to the final reflection. The one that binds all 12 mindset shifts together with a deeper truth, transformation. Doesn't require control over the world, only mastery over yourself. 13. The real transformation is quiet. There comes a point on every personal journey when you realize that adding more and more noise, more achievement, more attention isn't the answer. What your soul truly craves is less chaos, less reaction, less pretending. That's the moment when your transformation begins. Stoicism is not a dramatic performance. It's a quiet practice. It doesn't ask you to shout your growth from rooftops. It invites you to embody it in the smallest, most private choices. It happens when you pause before snapping, when you choose presence over distraction, when you walk away, not to make a statement but to protect your peace. This is the essence of being unshakable. In a culture of outrage and urgency, calm is rebellion. In a world addicted to noise, silence becomes a superpower. And in an age where people are consumed with being seen, there is rare strength in choosing to be aligned, even when no one's watching. These mindset shifts, the ones you've journeyed through, are not quick fixes. They are invitations. They are revolutions of identity carried out in quiet moments. When you feel anger rising and you pause, when discomfort presses in and you stay, when the old you wants to react and the new you breathes instead. This is how wisdom is earned. If one truth resonated with you on this path, hold on to it not as hype, but as a compass. Let it guide your next choice, your next response, your next breath. You don't need perfection. You need practice, because the Stoic path isn't walked in grand gestures, but in the discipline of quiet decisions that no one else sees, but that change everything. You don't have to control the world to be strong. You just have to master how you show up inside it. And in that still, steady mastery, you become free. In the previous section, we reflected on the quiet nature of true transformation, how stillness and consistency shape strength more than spectacle. Now, as we approach the closing of this journey, we confront one final misunderstanding, that peace is passive. In truth, peace is earned. It's an act of rebellion in a chaotic world. 14. Peace is not passive, it's practice in a time where attention is currency and outrage sells faster than wisdom. Calmness is often mistaken for weakness. We are surrounded by demands to respond, to react, to defend, to always be on. But the Stoic doesn't answer every call. He chooses. And in that choice lies his freedom. To remain grounded in a world spinning out of control is not a passive act. It is strength refined. Peace isn't about escaping pressure. It's about standing in the middle of a tond, not flinching. It's not a bubble you hide inside. It's a shield you forge from awareness, patience, and principle. The Stoic doesn't reject emotion. He feels it fully, then filters it through discipline. He doesn't hide from difficulty. He moves toward it with measured breath and quiet conviction. To build this kind of peace takes work. Daily. Silently. It's in the moments you resist the urge to lash out. When you let go of needing. The last word. When you choose presence over performance. Small choices are not small at all. They are acts of power. And over time, they compound. Into presence. Into resilience. Into inner gravity. Peace is not the absence of struggle. It's the presence of clarity. You may still feel anger, fear, frustration, but those emotions don't control your actions. Anymore, they rise. You observe. You choose. This is why peace must be practiced. Because if you don't choose it, the world will choose your reactions for you. So how do you practice it? With the breath? With the pause? With the refusal to give every trigger a piece of your mind? With the courage to slow down when the world says speed up? You don't need to fix the world to feel at ease. You just need to stop outsourcing your peace to everything outside your control. And in that space, in that sacred gap between impulse and action, you reclaim something powerful, your sovereignty. That is not passivity. That is practice, made real. In the last segment, we uncovered a truth that's often overlooked. Peace is not passive. It's a daily act of strength, a practiced discipline. Now we close this journey with a message that ties every Stoic shift together. It's not about being seen, it's about being true. 15. Let your life be the proof in a world obsessed with performance. It's easy to confuse appearance with authenticity. Social media tells us to be loud, to broadcast our breakthroughs, to chase applause. But real transformation doesn't scream, it shows up. And it shows up in the quietest of ways. It shows up when you pause before reacting, when you walk away from drama instead of diving into it, when you choose stillness over noise. It's when you treat the present moment like sacred ground, even when no one is watching. This is where the real work lives, in the dark, in the silence, in the micro decisions that seem invisible but shape everything. The Stoic doesn't chase validation. He becomes validation. Not because he's perfect, but because he's consistent. Because he knows that wisdom isn't measured by what you say, but by how you live. You don't need to convince the world you've changed. Let your life be the evidence. Let your energy shift. Let your boundaries speak. Let your peace become louder than your past. If even one mindset shift from this journey resonated with you, make it a standard, a way of seeing, a way of being, not for attention, not for likes, but because your soul deserves to live in alignment. And if you stumble, begin again. That's the Stoic way, not perfection, but return. Return to your breath, return to your values, return to the calm center inside you. You've seen now that true strength isn't about control. It's about choice. And the most powerful choice you'll ever make is to respond, not react. To lead yourself before trying to lead others. To protect your peace like it's your greatest possession, because it is. So as this chapter ends, know this: you are not at the end of a video, you're at the beginning of a new way of living. Let your life be the proof that Stoic wisdom isn't ancient, it's alive in you. In the previous part, we closed with a reminder that real change doesn't need to be declared, needs to be lived. Now let's expand that closing thought into a deeper reflection on what it means to truly carry Stoic wisdom into every day. Life 16. Stoicism is not a rule book. It's a way of being too often. We treat personal growth like a checklist. Did I journal today? Did I meditate? Did I respond calmly in a hard moment? While these actions matter, Stoicism is not about doing. It's about becoming. It's not a script to memorize. It's a standard to embody. True Stoic living is less about knowing all the quotes and more about what happens when your day falls apart. It's in the way you respond when plans change, when people disappoint you, when life tests your patience, your energy, your values. And in those moments, Stoicism doesn't ask you to be perfect. It asks you to be present. To remember what's yours to control and what isn't. To return to your core values instead of chasing temporary wins or external applause. You don't follow Stoicism like you follow a diet. You live it like you live, your breath ongoing, quiet, foundational. Real transformation is not loud. It's not a viral success story or a perfectly curated morning routine. It's found in the quiet choice to pause instead of panic, to observe instead of overreact, to speak with purpose or to stay silent when silence has more power. This is where the Stoic path separates itself from trendy self-help. It's not about surface. It's about substance. It's not about appearing wise. It's about becoming someone who no longer needs to prove their wisdom. And as you walk this path, yes, you will falter. You'll forget. You'll react. But every return is progress. Every breath you take before responding is a quiet revolution. So if you've reached this point and felt even one mindset shift resonate deeply, don't just remember it. Live it. Let it shape your habits, your voice, your choices. Let it soften what needs healing and sharpen what needs discipline. Because Stoicism isn't a lesson to study. It's a mirror that shows you who you are and who you could be if you stayed anchored to what truly matters. It's not about becoming someone else. It's about becoming yourself on purpose. As we've uncovered throughout this journey, Stoicism isn't something you perform, it's something you embody. Now let's close with the deepest reminder of all. Wisdom is not measured by how much you know, but by how consistently you act on what matters. 17. Wisdom is earned in silence, proved in action. There's a reason Stoicism has lasted for thousands of years, not because it's trendy, but because it's timeless. It speaks to a human truth that no technology or culture can erase. Your peace does not depend on the world behaving. It depends on how you respond to it, and that response is forged in quiet places. It's in your breath before a reaction. It's in the choice to not send that angry message. It's in the moments where no one is watching, but you decide to uphold your standard anyway. You see, real Stoicism isn't about sounding wise on a podcast or quoting Marcus Aurelius at a dinner table. It's about living in such a way that your character speaks louder than your opinions. It's when your friends feel calmer around you, not because you have all the answers, but because you carry yourself with grounded energy. It's when you stop needing to win every argument because your peace matters more than proving a point. It's when your days begin not in a panic, but with purpose, not rushing toward productivity, but anchoring yourself first in presence. Wisdom is earned in silence. When you reflect instead of react, when you study your own patterns, when you sit with discomfort long enough to hear what it's trying to teach you, and wisdom is proved in action. When you show up consistently, when you live aligned, when your boundaries aren't announcements, they're behavior, when the version of you that speaks in public matches the one who stares back in the mirror, you don't need to be perfect to walk the Stoic path. You just need to return, every day, to the breath, to the moment, to the principle that real power is quiet, real clarity is calm, and real wisdom is humble. So let the world be loud, you be solid, not because you have nothing to say, but because your life already speaks. Throughout this entire journey, we've returned again and again to one central idea, that strength isn't always visible, it isn't always loud. It's cultivated quietly in the way you think, the way you act, the way you return to your values day after day. 18. The quiet revolution of living aligned in a culture obsessed with dramatic change and fast success. It's easy to forget where real transformation happens, not on stages, not in declarations, but in the private, unseen moments where you choose to act with integrity even when no one notices. That's what Stoicism teaches us. It's not a public performance. It's a private revolution. Every mindset shift we've explored, from emotional control to letting go, from discipline to stillness, has pointed toward one greater truth. You don't need to control the world to be powerful. You just need to control your response to it, and this response is forged quietly. It's built when you resist the urge to argue back and choose silence. When you don't chase closure, but find peace within yourself. When your energy is no longer tied to chaos, but directed toward clarity. This is the quiet revolution. No grand announcements, no instant applause, just is showing up, breathing, choosing, becoming. And in that becoming, your life begins to change, because the world has changed, but because you have. So, what's next? It's not about rushing into another self-help video or journaling prompt. It's about pausing, listening, reflecting on which shift spoke most to your current season and then embodying it, quietly, fiercely, without needing anyone to notice. Let your actions be your message. Let your peace be your protest. Let your restraint be your revolution. Because in a world addicted to noise, your calm is a beacon. In a time of performative wisdom, your integrity is the wisdom. And in the end, it's not what you consumed that matters, it's what you practiced. You've been given 12 powerful mindset shifts, but they're not rules. They're invitations, seeds, and what you do with them is your choice. But one thing is certain. When you live aligned, you don't have to shout. Your presence says everything, and the world listens even when you say nothing at all. After walking through all the mindset shifts, we now arrive at something even deeper than individual transformation. It's the ripple effect. The way your quiet internal work begins to change the energy around you. 19. Your inner work is not just yours. It's contagious. One of the greatest lies of modern life is that you're healing. Your peace, your growth is only about you. It's not. Every time you choose not to react, every time you pause instead of panic, you're not just transforming yourself, you're transforming the environment you're in. People feel your energy. Even when you don't speak, you communicate through presence. And when your presence is steady, grounded, and clear, others feel it even if they can't explain why. That's the power of inner alignment. It spreads. You don't need to preach Stoicism to anyone. You don't need to convince your partner, your coworkers, or your friends to change. You just need to live it, quietly, consistently, because when people witness a person who responds with calm, who doesn't get rattled by drama, who moves with intention, they take notice. And more importantly, they start to feel safer around you. It's not safe because you're agreeable, but safe because you're anchored, because you're not trying to win. You're not trying to dominate. You're trying to stay aligned with your values. And that kind of energy is rare. This is the real influence. Not in titles, not in authority, but in embodiment. You become the one people turn to when things go wrong. You become the mirror for what's possible when someone actually lives their philosophy instead of just quoting it. So if you've ever felt like your personal growth was a lonely journey, remember this. People are watching, not to judge, but to learn. And when your life becomes a quiet example of what's possible, you give others permission to rise too. This is how Stoicism spreads, not through argument, but through alignment. Not through noise, but through embodiment. Your growth is never just about you. It's about everyone who gets to feel the ripple of your calm. So live your truth, not to impress, but to inspire. At this stage, you've seen how internal mastery quietly influences everything and everyone around you. Now, as we move toward a final reflection, there's one last essential shift. Learning to let go of what once defined you. 20. Let go of the old story. Every person has a story they carry, a version of themselves shaped by pain, by disappointment, by things they didn't choose but had to survive. And for a long time, that story can feel like the truth, but the Stoic knows. Identity is not fixed. You are not your past. You are not your failures. You are not the version of yourself that didn't know better. You are the one who chooses what stays and what ends. To grow, you must be willing to loosen your grip on the narrative that says, "This is just who I am." No, it's who you were. And even that was just a moment, not a life sentence. Letting go of the old story doesn't mean denying what happened. It means refusing to keep repeating it. It means refusing to let your past set the ceiling for your potential. When you let go, you create space. Space for healing. Space for new standards. Space to act from the present instead of reacting from the past. This is the beginning of real self-authorship. You become the one writing your next chapter, not the pain, not the fear, not the opinions of others. And yes, it's scary. The old story, even if painful, is familiar. But the cost of comfort is growth. And Stoicism reminds us, growth is not supposed to be easy. It's supposed to be worth it. So today, ask yourself, what version of me am I ready to release? What belief no longer serves the man or woman I'm becoming? Don't wait for permission. Don't wait for perfect timing. Choose now. Turn. Script that no longer fits in. Let the next version of you rise from the ashes. This is not reinvention. It's remembrance. Remembering who you were before the world told you who to be. And from this place, this clean slate, you begin not just a new story, but a new standard. That's the Stoic way forward. After releasing the old story, you now stand on new ground, a place where clarity replaces confusion and peace becomes your compass. And from here, one final shift remains, honoring your evolution by how you live every day. Make your peace. Your power peace isn't what you feel only on vacations or when everything is going right. Real peace is what you return to even when the world is not cooperating. It's your anchor, not your reward. 8. The Stoic path doesn't lead you to escape life. It teaches you how to engage with it wisely. And at the center of that engagement is your ability to remain calm, not because life is easy, but because you've become stronger. So what does it look like to make peace your power? It looks like no longer rushing to prove yourself. It's choosing patience over performance, silence over sarcasm, clarity over chaos. It's when your peace becomes so consistent, so practiced, that it begins to change how others behave around you. Your energy begins to speak for itself, not loud, not demanding, but undeniably present. You've become someone who doesn't just manage stress, you transcend it. Not by avoiding discomfort, but by facing it with grace. And when you do that, others begin to sense something unshakable in you. This is what Stoicism leads to, not the absence of emotion, but the ability to rise above being ruled by it. People gossip. Let circumstances shift. Let emotions pass. You stay steady. Not out of pride, but out of principle, because you've done the work. You've reflected, adjusted, returned again and again. You've chosen what matters over what's easy. Now your peace is not fragile, it's forged. Carry that forward. Let that be the legacy of everything you've practiced. Make peace. Your power. Not just for you, but for everyone who watches how you lead your life with quiet strength. Because that's the most magnetic thing in the world. Not being impressive, but being anchored. After grounding yourself in peace and learning to lead from presence, we arrive at a powerful realization. The journey never truly ends, it evolves. The final mindset shift is about how you carry forward all you've gained. 22. Let your life be the lesson by now. You've internalized powerful truths about detachment, clarity, purpose, boundaries, stillness. But Stoicism, at its core, is not about knowledge. It's about embodiment. It's about becoming the kind of person whose life quietly teaches what no lecture can. When someone meets you, they shouldn't need a speech to understand your values. They should feel it in your energy, your choices, your consistency, the way you show up in relationships, the way you handle setbacks, the way you speak about others when they're not in the room. That's how wisdom is passed, not in arguments. But an example, your life becomes the proof of your principles. And this doesn't mean you need to be perfect. This means you need to be real, grounded, committed to growth even when it's slow, devoted to alignment even when it's inconvenient. This is what the world truly needs, not more opinions, but more examples. Because people are overwhelmed with advice. They've heard every tip, every hack, every strategy. What they crave is to see what it looks like when someone actually lives what they talk about. So let your actions become your message. Let your discipline be louder than your declarations. Let your healing be visible, not in what you say, but in how you treat others. Let your peace speak louder than your posts. You're not here to impress, you're here to impact. And sometimes, the most lasting impact comes from the quietest presence. Let your life be the lesson, the kind of lesson people remember not because it was loud, but because it was true. That's the legacy of a Stoic life, not applause, but alignment. And finally, as we close this chapter, there is one last message, perhaps the most important of all. It's not about a technique. It's not about a rule. It's a reminder. 23. Return to the breath. In every teaching we've shared, there's been a current running underneath. Awareness. And nothing brings you back to awareness more quickly than your breath. You don't need to have all the answers. You don't need to always be composed. You don't need to figure out your entire life today. What you do need is the ability to pause, to come back to yourself, and that begins simply with the breath. Your breath is always with you, in failure, in joy, in confusion, in courage. It is the most honest reflection of your state. No, it's the most accessible tool to reset it. When you're overwhelmed, breathe. When you're angry, breathe. When you don't know what to do, breathe. It sounds simple, but that's the point. The world is fast, loud, and demanding. But your breath is quiet, constant, patient, just like the Stoic mindset. And when you train yourself to return to it, especially in moments of stress, you remind your nervous system that you are safe, that you are in control, that you are not just reacting, you are responding. This is not about meditating for hours or mastering a technique. It's about remembering that you have a choice. Right now, in this moment, to inhale with clarity, to exhale with release. Every Stoic principle we've covered, detachment, discipline, stillness, self-respect, can be re-anchored through the breath. It is your reset, your center, your comeback. So the next time life pulls you in every direction and your mind spins with stories and your heart pounds with uncertainty, pause. Close your eyes and return to the breath, because that's where your power lives. That's where your presence is born. And that's where this journey truly begins again, and again, and again. As the final words of this journey settle, remember this: Stoicism is not a destination. It's not something you graduate from. It's a way of being, a daily practice, a quiet revolution, a choice you make again and again. 24. The journey. Continue. Choose again. There will be days when you forget everything you've learned. Days when your emotions get the better of you. When old habits pull harder than your new intentions. And that's okay. Growth is not linear. It's layered, cyclical, often messy. But what matters most isn't staying perfect tights, returning, choosing again. That's what defines the Stoic. You will slip, you will react, you will lose sight of your principles. But then you will remember, you will pause, you will breathe. You will return to your values, to your clarity, to your peace. And each time you return, you strengthen the path. This isn't about never breaking. It's about becoming the kind of person who bends without shattering. It's the kind who walks through storms, not because they love chaos, but because they've trained themselves to stay calm inside it. So give yourself grace, let go of the fantasy of perfection, and recommit, not in grand gestures, but in quiet moments of self-trust. You've already done more than most by simply choosing to reflect, to listen, to learn. Now, choose to live it, not just when it's easy, not just when you feel inspired, but especially when it's hard, especially when no one's watching. That's what makes you different. That's what makes this real. The world doesn't need louder voices. It needs clearer minds. It needs calmer hearts. It needs people like you who lead from within. So go, live your truth. Lead with your presence. And when you fall, don't despair. Simply return, because the Stoic journey never ends, it deepens. And every time you choose again, you rise stronger than before. This final note is not about wrapping things up. It's about opening something new, a new way of seeing, thinking, and living. If you've made it this far, it means something inside you is ready, not just for information, but for transformation. 25. You are the message. We live in a world full of noise. Everyone is talking, posting, performing, but rare is the person who embodies what they believe. Rare is the one who lives it when no one is watching. That can be you. You don't need more quotes. You don't need more approval. You don't need to wait for a sign. You're already equipped with everything you need: discipline, presence, stillness, courage. They are not waiting to be found. They are waiting to be used. The world will challenge you. Life will test you. But remember, You've already trained for this. Every lesson, every setback, every quiet moment of reflection, it's been preparing you. Now it's time to walk it. Your actions reflect your values. Let your calm become contagious. Let your refusal to engage in chaos set a new tone. Let your quiet consistency become your legacy. This doesn't mean you won't struggle, but it means you won't run. You'll face the moment with open eyes and a steady breath. People won't remember your arguments. They'll remember your energy. They'll remember how they felt in your presence. They'll remember the calm in your eyes when things were falling apart. So don't underestimate yourself. You're not just learning Stoicism. You are becoming it. You are the message. It's a living example of what this entire journey has been about. And the world needs more of that. Not louder people. Not smarter arguments. It needs grounded souls who walk with quiet power. Who pause instead of panic. Who choose presence over pressure. So go live it. Let every step you take be a reminder to yourself and to others of what it means to truly master the inner game. That's what Stoicism is for. And you are ready. As this journey closes, let's end not with applause, but with a return to the essence of what really matters. One final whisper of wisdom to carry forward into every moment of your life. 26. Simplicity is power in a world that glorifies complexity, speed, and excess. Choosing simplicity is an act of quiet rebellion. But simplicity isn't emptiness. It's focus. It's clarity. It's learning to say, this is enough. The Stoics weren't minimalists. In the modern sense, they didn't declutter their lives for aesthetic. They simplified their minds for freedom. Because when life is crowded with noise, you can't hear yourself think. When your schedule is packed with obligations that don't reflect your values, you lose your center. And when your identity is tangled in things, roles, achievements, you forget who you really are. Simplicity is the art of remembering. It's what happens when you subtract distraction. When you no longer need 100 likes to feel seen. When you don't measure your peace by your possessions. When your joy comes from quiet mornings, honest words, and deep breaths. It's in how you speak, how you move, how you think. Simplicity is not lack its essence. And it's powerful because it brings you back to what matters. Over and over. A quiet meal with someone you love. A decision made with intention. A routine that grounds you, not drains you. A walk without your phone. A conversation without the need to win. Simplicity sharpens your discernment. It helps you separate what's urgent from what's important. What's impressive from what's impactful. So let this be your final note. Don't just declutter your home. Declutter your heart. Just organize your schedules. Simplify your soul. The Stoic life isn't about having less. It's about needing less and becoming more. And when you live like that clear, present, focused you, don't just move through life. You lead it. Let that be your compass now. What is essential? What is true? What is real? Because simplicity isn't small, it's sovereign.